Is Hypixel Bedwars actually dying? A lot of people say it is, but when you really look at it, the answer isn't that simple. This question has been going around the community for a long time, and honestly, it makes sense why people are asking it. When you hear it over and over again, it starts to feel like it might actually be true. For a long time, Bed Wars has been one of the most popular game modes on Hypixel. It had millions of players, quick queue times, and a very active community. Even now, you can still get into games pretty fast, which shows that the mode is still alive. So just based on player activity, it wouldn't be accurate to say that Bed Wars is dead. You can log on at almost any time of the day and still find matches within seconds. That alone says a lot about how active the game still is. But at the same time, the experience of playing Bed Wars has definitely changed. And that's where most of the discussion comes from. It's not really about whether the game is alive or dead, it's about how different it feels compared to before. One of the biggest changes is the overall skill level. Players today are just better. Things like faster bridging, stronger PvP, and more efficient strategies have become normal. Almost everyone knows how to speed bridge now, and fights are a lot more intense than before. Even basic mechanics have improved across the entire player base. Because of that, newer or more casual players might find the game harder than it used to be. Back then, you could take your time and still have a chance. You could make mistakes and recover from them. Now, if you make a mistake early on, it can cost you the entire game. Matches feel less forgiving, and that alone changes how people experience Bed Wars. It creates a more high-pressure environment where every move matters. The pace of the game has also changed. Matches feel quicker and more competitive. A lot of players focus on doing things as efficiently as possible to win. Rushing early, getting resources fast, and ending games quickly has become the norm. You'll often see teams getting eliminated within the first few minutes. And while that's not necessarily a bad thing, it can make the game feel more intense, especially if you're just trying to play casually. Another thing players often mention is how competitive the community has become. There are a lot more sweaty players now, people who know every strategy, every rush route, and how to win fights consistently. They play fast, they play smart, and they don't really make many mistakes. For competitive players, this is exciting. It makes every match feel like a real challenge. But for casual players, it can feel overwhelming and sometimes even frustrating. Then there's the issue of hackers. While not every game has them, they still exist. Running into someone who's clearly cheating can ruin the experience, even if it doesn't happen often. And sometimes even the idea that there might be a hacker in your game can make things feel frustrating. Part of the reason for this is that the anti-cheat system is still getting bypassed by some players, which makes it harder to fully eliminate the problem. Even if it's not constant, it's enough to affect how people feel about the game overall. Another thing people talk about is updates. Some players feel like Bed Wars hasn't changed much in terms of its core gameplay. The objective is still the same: protect your bed and eliminate others. While there have been updates over time, many of them don't completely change how the game is played. So if you've been playing for a long time, it can start to feel repetitive. You begin to recognize the same patterns, the same strategies, and the same outcomes. There's also the way people talk about the game. If you go on YouTube or forums, you'll see a lot of players saying that Bed Wars is dying. Even if the player count is still stable, that kind of talk can affect how people feel. If enough players believe a game is declining, they might stop playing, which can actually lead to a real decline over time. It becomes less about facts and more about perception. And then there's the issue of new players. Games usually stay healthy when new players keep joining. But if a game becomes harder to get into, especially for beginners, it can slow that down. In Bed Wars, the higher skill level, faster pace, and more competitive environment can make it difficult for new players to stick around. If someone joins and keeps losing quickly, they might not feel motivated to keep playing. At the same time, there are still a lot of players who enjoy the game exactly as it is. Competitive players like the challenge. They enjoy improving, learning strategies, and getting better over time. For them, Bed Wars hasn't gotten worse, it's just evolved. The difficulty is part of what makes it rewarding. There's also something to be said about the core idea of Bed Wars. The concept itself is simple, but that's what makes it so replayable. Protect your bed, gather resources, and eliminate other teams. That formula has kept players coming back for years. Even if the experience changes, the core gameplay is still strong. So when people ask if Bedwars is dying, it really depends on what they mean. If they're talking about player count, then no, it's still active. But if they're talking about how the game feels compared to before, then yes, things have definitely changed. And that difference is what people are really noticing. Bedwars today is more competitive, more optimized, and more fast-paced than it used to be. And because of that, it feels very different depending on who you are as a player. For some, it's better than ever. For others, it feels harder to enjoy casually. In the end, Bedwars isn't exactly the same game it used to be. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's dying. It just means it's changing. And like any game that lasts this long, change is inevitable. Whether that change is a good thing or a bad thing really depends on how you like to play. Some players will enjoy the challenge, while others might miss how the game used to feel. So what do you think? Is Bedwars still fun for you, or has it changed too much?